Princess Zarathul stood at the massive viewing port of her flagship, watching the blue-green world called Earth grow larger as her fleet approached. The planet looked so peaceful from space, with white clouds swirling over green continents and blue oceans. It was hard to believe that this small world had brought the mighty Kethmoran Empire to its knees. The war had lasted 3 years. 3 years of devastating losses that had shocked every civilized species in the galaxy. The Kethmoran Empire controlled over 400 star systems. Their military had conquered dozens of other species. They had never lost a war. Until now. Zarathul touched the ceremonial blade at her side, a symbol of her royal bloodline. As the Emperor's daughter, she had trained in combat and strategy since childhood. She had led successful campaigns against the Veltar rebels and the Quindar pirates. She understood warfare. But the humans had shown her something she had never seen before. They did not fight like other species. They did not follow the accepted rules of galactic warfare. When the Empire's massive dreadnoughts blocked their supply lines, the humans sent tiny ships through asteroid fields that no sane pilot would dare navigate. When the Empire's superior numbers surrounded human colonies, the humans fought from inside the cities themselves, turning every building into a fortress. Most disturbing of all, they never surrendered. Other species would negotiate when facing overwhelming odds. The humans simply fought harder. Even when their ships were crippled and their weapons destroyed, human crews would ram their vessels into Empire ships, sacrificing themselves to take out targets worth 10 times their vessel's value. The Empire's admirals called them insane. Zarathul had studied their tactics and reached a different conclusion. The humans were not insane. They were something far more dangerous. They were unpredictable. "Your Highness," said General Vexhan, approaching with his usual military bearing. His 4 arms were clasped behind his back in the formal position. "The human delegation has confirmed. They will honor the marriage agreement. The war will end when you wed their representative." Zarathul nodded slowly. The marriage had been her idea. After the disastrous Battle of Proxima, where a single human fleet had destroyed 3 Empire battle groups, she had convinced her father that military victory was impossible. The humans fought with a ferocity that defied logic. They used tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. They turned defeats into victories through sheer determination and creativity. The political marriage would end the war and create a binding peace treaty. The Empire would recognize human territorial claims. In return, the humans would cease their military expansion. Both sides would benefit from trade agreements and technological exchange. At least, that was the official plan. Zarathul had studied human history and culture extensively while preparing for this mission. What she had learned concerned her greatly. "General," she said, "have you reviewed the human military records I sent you?" Vexhan's antenna twitched with discomfort. "I have, Your Highness. Their expansion rate is indeed unusual." Unusual was a careful understatement. In just 200 years, humans had spread from 1 star system to over 50 colonies. They had fought wars against 4 different species and won every time. They had adapted alien technology faster than any other species in recorded history. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to grow stronger with each conflict. The Zenkar had discovered this the hard way. When they first encountered humans, the Zenkar had superior weapons and faster ships. The war lasted 6 months. By the end, human weapons were better than Zenkar designs, and human ships were outmaneuvering vessels that had dominated space for centuries. The pattern repeated with every species that fought them. The Mordoon Empire had learned this lesson recently. After 2 years of war with the humans, Mordoon military technology had actually regressed as they struggled to counter human innovations. "Your Highness," Vexhan said carefully, "are you certain this marriage alliance is wise? Perhaps we should consider other options." "What other options?" Zarathul asked. "Our fleets cannot defeat them through conventional warfare. Economic sanctions are useless against a species that can strip mine asteroids and build entire cities in space. Diplomatic pressure means nothing to beings who colonize planets other species consider uninhabitable." She turned from the viewing port to face her general. The humans have been at war with someone for their entire known history. Fighting is not just something they do. Vexhan, fighting is what they are. The general's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep thought among his species. Perhaps that is why the other great empires avoid them. Zarathul had wondered about that herself. The galaxy contained several species more powerful than humanity. The ancient Karthek Dominion controlled over 1,000 star systems. The Cybernetic Nexus Collective had technology that seemed almost magical. The Psionic Ethereal Council could manipulate matter with their thoughts. None of these great powers had ever gone to war with humanity. When human expansion approached their borders, they simply adjusted their territorial claims to avoid conflict. The Karthek Dominion had even abandoned several valuable systems rather than contest human colonization efforts. At first, this had seemed like evidence of human weakness. Surely the great powers were simply waiting for the right moment to crush this upstart species. But as Zarathul studied the patterns, a different picture emerged. The great powers were not avoiding conflict with humanity out of contempt. They were avoiding conflict out of caution. "Your Highness," the ship's communication officer called out. "We are receiving a transmission from the human delegation." "On screen," Zarathul commanded. The main display activated, showing a human male in formal military dress. He appeared young by human standards, perhaps 30 Earth years old. His hair was brown, his eyes were blue, and he carried himself with quiet confidence. Nothing about him seemed particularly threatening. "Princess Zarathul," the human said. "I am Commander Marcus Chen, representing the Terran Federation in these proceedings. We welcome you to Earth and look forward to beginning the peace process." Zarathul studied his face carefully. Humans were notoriously difficult to read. Their expressions could convey multiple meanings, and their ability to deceive was legendary. "Commander Chen, I am honored to meet my future husband. May this union bring lasting peace between our peoples." "Indeed," Chen replied. "We have prepared quarters for you and your delegation at our diplomatic complex. We hope you will be comfortable during your stay." "I am sure we will," Zarathul said. "I look forward to learning more about human culture before our ceremony." "As do we, Your Highness. Human traditions require that we know each other well before marriage. We have arranged various activities to help us understand each other better." The transmission ended, leaving Zarathul alone with her thoughts. Human marriage customs were another puzzle she had tried to solve. Unlike most species, humans seemed to form emotional bonds with their mates. They did not simply reproduce and separate, they created lasting partnerships that could endure for decades. This emotional component made human relationships unpredictable. A human might sacrifice everything for their mate, or they might betray their own species if they believed their partner was threatened. Human history was full of stories about individuals who changed the course of wars because of love or betrayal. "Your Highness," Vexhan said, "the shuttle is prepared for your departure." Zarathul gathered her ceremonial robes and checked her weapons one final time. Protocol required that she be armed. Even during diplomatic missions, she wore a plasma sword at her hip and carried a small energy pistol in a concealed holster. The shuttle journey to Earth's surface took less than an hour. As they descended through the atmosphere, Zarathul watched the landscape change from the black of space to the blue of sky to the green of forests and cities. Human cities were different from those of other species. Where most advanced civilizations built upward, creating towering spires of metal and crystal, human cities seemed to grow organically. Buildings of different sizes and styles stood next to each other. Parks and gardens were scattered throughout urban areas. Streets curved and wound instead of following geometric patterns. "It looks chaotic," General Vexhan observed. "Perhaps," Zarathul replied. "Or perhaps it looks adaptive." The shuttle landed at a complex that seemed designed to impress visitors. The buildings were large and imposing, built from white stone with columns and arches. Gardens surrounded the structures, filled with plants from dozens of different worlds. Commander Chen was waiting at the landing pad, along with a small honor guard of human soldiers. Zarathul noticed that the humans were armed, but their weapons were not drawn. Their body language suggested alertness rather than hostility. "Princess Zarathul," Chen said as she descended from the shuttle. Welcome to Earth. Up close, Zarathul could see details she had missed in the transmission. Chen was taller than most humans, perhaps 6 feet in height. His military uniform was well maintained but showed signs of actual use. There were small scars on his hands that suggested combat experience. Most interesting of all, his eyes were constantly moving. He was not just looking at her, but scanning the area around them, noting the positions of her guards, analyzing potential threats and escape routes. This was not a diplomat playing soldier. This was a soldier playing diplomat. "Commander Chen," she replied formally, "thank you for your hospitality. I hope our time together will be productive." "I'm certain it will be," he said with a smile that did not quite reach his eyes. "Shall we begin with a tour of the complex?" As they walked through the gardens, Chen pointed out various features of the buildings and landscape. He spoke knowledgeably about architecture and horticulture. He seemed genuinely interested in ensuring her comfort, but Zarathul noticed things he did not mention. The gardens contained plants that could be used for medicine or poison. The decorative fountains were positioned to provide cover in case of attack. The beautiful stone walkways were designed to channel movement toward specific areas where visitors could be easily observed or contained. This was not just a diplomatic complex. It was a fortress disguised as a palace. "Your people have created something beautiful here," Zarathul said carefully. "We try," Chen replied. "Humans believe that beauty and function should work together. A building should be pleasant to look at, but it should also serve its purpose effectively." They entered the main building, which housed conference rooms, dining halls, and guest quarters. Zarathul was impressed by the attention to detail. Her rooms had been modified to accommodate her physiology. The temperature was adjusted for her comfort. The furniture was sized correctly for her larger frame. Even the food provided for her delegation had been prepared according to Kethmaran dietary requirements. "This is very thoughtful," she told Chen as they completed the tour. "We want you to feel welcome," he said. "This marriage represents more than just a treaty between our governments. It's a bridge between two very different cultures." Zarathul studied his face again. "Indeed. I confess I am curious about human marriage customs. My advisors have told me conflicting things." Chen's expression became more serious. "What would you like to know?" "Among my people, political marriages are business arrangements. The partners respect each other and work together, but there is no expectation of emotional attachment. I am told that humans approach marriage differently." "Some do," Chen said carefully. "Human culture varies greatly across our different worlds and colonies. Some humans do treat marriage as a business arrangement. Others seek emotional connections. Still others see it as a spiritual bond. And you, Commander? What do you seek in this marriage?" Chen was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful. "I seek understanding, Princess. Our species have been at war for 3 years. Thousands have died on both sides. If this marriage can prevent future conflicts, then I will do whatever is necessary to make it successful." It was a diplomatic answer, but Zarathul heard something else in his tone. This human was not just following orders. He genuinely wanted peace between their peoples. Whether that made him easier to work with or more dangerous remained to be seen. "I share your goal, Commander," she said. "Perhaps we should begin by learning about each other's military traditions. I understand you have an interesting perspective on warfare." Chen's smile became genuine for the first time. "That's one way to put it. Would you like to see our training facilities?" "Very much." They spent the rest of the day touring human military installations. Zarathul was impressed by the efficiency and innovation she observed. Human soldiers trained in environments that simulated dozens of different combat scenarios. Their equipment was rugged and adaptable, rather than sophisticated and specialized. Most intriguingly, human military doctrine emphasized flexibility over doctrine. Where most species developed detailed battle plans and followed them precisely, humans seemed to prefer general strategies that could be modified instantly based on changing conditions. "Your officers seem to have unusual freedom," Zarathul observed as they watched a training exercise. "Human commanders are expected to think for themselves," Chen explained. We provide objectives and resources, but we don't micromanage tactics. Our people work best when they can adapt to unexpected situations. Does this not lead to chaos? Sometimes, Chen admitted. But it also leads to innovation. When a plan fails, our people don't wait for new orders. They create new plans. That evening, they dined together in a private room. The meal was simple but well prepared, featuring dishes from both human and Kethmoran traditions. Chen had clearly made an effort to accommodate her tastes while introducing her to human cuisine. "Tell me about your family, princess," Chen said as they ate. Zarathul described her upbringing in the royal court, her military training, and her previous commands. Chen listened carefully, asking intelligent questions about Kethmoran culture and military organization. In return, he told her about his own background. He had grown up on a frontier colony where attacks from space pirates were common. His parents had been engineers who helped design the colony's defensive systems. He had joined the military at 18 and worked his way up through merit rather than connections. "You have no noble bloodline?" Zarathul asked. "Humans don't really have nobles," Chen explained. "We have people with wealth and influence, but anyone can achieve those through their own efforts. Leadership positions are earned, rather than inherited." This was another piece of the puzzle that was human society. Most advanced species had rigid hierarchies with hereditary leadership. It provided stability and prevented conflicts over succession, but it also limited advancement to a small genetic pool. Humans had chosen a different path. Their leaders came from all backgrounds, and were selected based on ability rather than birth. It created more chaos, but it also created more innovation. As the evening continued, Zarathul found herself genuinely enjoying Chen's company. He was intelligent, thoughtful, and surprisingly well-educated for a military officer. He spoke knowledgeably about art, history, and philosophy. He asked perceptive questions about her own interests and opinions. More importantly, he treated her as an equal rather than a prize to be won or a problem to be solved. Many males of her own species were intimidated by her royal status or her military rank. Chen seemed neither impressed nor threatened by either. "May I ask you something personal, Commander?" she said as the meal wound down. "Of course. Why did you agree to this marriage? You could have refused. From what I understand, your government does not command its citizens to marry against their will." Chen considered the question carefully. "You're right. I could have refused, but I didn't want to." "Why not?" "Because I've seen what this war has done to both our peoples," he said quietly. "I've lost friends and colleagues. I've seen colonies destroyed and families torn apart. If marrying you can prevent other families from experiencing that loss, then it's a worthwhile sacrifice." "You see it as a sacrifice?" "Not the marriage itself," Chen clarified. "The loss of choice. I had planned to marry someone I loved. Instead, I'm marrying someone I hope to respect and work with. It's not what I wanted, but it's what's needed." His honesty was refreshing. Most politicians would have given her a flowery speech about honor and duty. Chen had simply told her the truth. "I appreciate your candor," she said. "I hope we can build a partnership based on mutual respect." "I hope so too, Princess." As the evening ended and they prepared to retire to their separate quarters, Zarathul reflected on what she had learned. Chen was intelligent, capable, and genuinely committed to peace. He would be a good partner in the political sense. But she had also observed things that concerned her. His casual mention of losing friends in the war had revealed depths of pain he kept carefully hidden. His descriptions of growing up on a frontier world had shown her glimpses of a childhood shaped by constant danger and uncertainty. Chen was not just a soldier and diplomat. He was a survivor. And survivors, in Zarathul's experience, were often the most dangerous people of all. As she lay in her bed that night, staring at the unfamiliar stars visible through her window, Zarathul wondered what she was really getting herself into. The marriage would end the war, but what would it begin? Outside her window, the lights of human cities sparkled in the darkness. Somewhere among those lights, millions of humans were going about their daily lives. They worked, and played, and loved, and dreamed, just like any other species. But they were also the people who had brought the mighty Kethmoran Empire to its knees. Tomorrow, she would begin the formal courtship process that would lead to her marriage to Marcus Chen. She would learn more about human culture and society. She would try to understand what made these people so formidable in war and so innovative in peace. But tonight, she could only wonder if she was making the right choice. The war would end. But at what cost? And what would she discover about her new husband and his people that might change everything she thought she knew about the balance of power in the galaxy? The answers would come soon enough. For now, she could only prepare herself for whatever revelations lay ahead. The morning brought Zarathul's first real surprise about human culture. When she arrived at the dining hall for breakfast, she found Commander Chen already there, but he was not alone. 3 other humans sat with him at the table, and they were engaged in what appeared to be a heated argument. The defensive grid around Titan needs upgrading, a woman with silver hair was saying firmly. The current system won't stop a determined assault. Admiral Torres is right, said a younger man with multiple scars across his face. But the real problem is our early warning network. By the time we detect incoming hostiles, they're already past our outer defenses. Chen noticed Zarathul's arrival and stood up immediately. Princess, good morning. Please, join us. I'd like you to meet some of my colleagues. The other humans stood as well, which surprised Zarathul. In most military cultures, only commanders stood for visiting dignitaries. These humans were showing her respect regardless of their rank. Admiral Elena Torres, the silver-haired woman said, extending her hand in the human greeting gesture. I command the Seoul Defense Fleet. Colonel James Wright, said the scarred man. Special Operations Division. Dr. Sarah Kim, said the third human, a woman wearing civilian clothes. I'm with the Strategic Research Institute. Zarathul was intrigued. These were not ceremonial positions assigned to impress her. Torres was the officer responsible for protecting humanity's home system. Wright's scars suggested extensive combat experience. Kim's presence indicated that humans included their scientists in military planning. I am honored to meet you all, Zarathul said as she took a seat. Please, continue your discussion. I am curious about human military planning. The humans exchanged glances. Chen nodded slightly, and Torres resumed speaking. The issue is resource allocation, Torres explained. We can build more defensive platforms, but that means fewer ships for patrol duties. We can expand the sensor network, but that requires personnel we're using for other projects. What other projects? Zarathul asked. Research and development, Dr. Kim replied. We're working on improvements to our existing systems. Better engines, stronger hull materials, more efficient weapons. Zarathul listened carefully as the humans discussed their military needs. What she heard was disturbing. These people were not talking like a species that had just won a war. They were talking like a species preparing for the next war. May I ask, Zarathul said carefully, who you are preparing to defend against? Our treaty will ensure peace between our peoples. The humans became quiet. Colonel Wright's expression was particularly grim. Princess, Chen said diplomatically, humans have learned that peace requires constant vigilance. We hope our marriage will ensure lasting friendship between our species, but we must be ready for other threats. What other threats? Doctor, Kim leaned forward. With respect, Your Highness, your empire is not the only power in the galaxy. There are others who might see human expansion as a threat to their interests. The Karthek Dominion controls over 1,000 systems, Admiral Torres added. The Nexus Collective has technology we barely understand. The Ethereal Council can manipulate matter with their minds. Any of them could decide that humanity needs to be contained or eliminated. Zarathul was beginning to understand something important. The humans were not just preparing for possible conflicts. They were expecting them. They had studied the galaxy's power structure and concluded that war was inevitable. You believe the great powers will eventually move against you? She asked. We think it's likely, Chen said honestly. Human history teaches us that powerful entities rarely tolerate the emergence of new competitors. We're expanding rapidly and developing new technologies. Sooner or later, someone will decide we're a threat that needs to be eliminated. But you continue expanding anyway? Of course, Colonel Wright said with a slight smile. What's the alternative? Stay weak and hope nobody notices us? Dr. Kim nodded in agreement. Humans have never achieved safety through submission. We survive by becoming too dangerous to attack. This conversation was revealing more about human psychology than weeks of cultural briefings. These people did not seek peace through diplomacy or appeasement. They sought peace through strength. They made themselves so formidable that attacking them became unacceptably costly. Tell me about your research projects, Zarathul said to Dr. Kim. What improvements are you developing? The scientist's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. We're working on several fronts. Improved fusion reactors that can power larger ships. New hull materials that can withstand more damage. Weapon systems that are more accurate and efficient. And your methods? We study everything, Kim explained. Human engineers take apart captured alien technology and figure out how to improve it. Our scientists analyze the wreckage from every battle to understand what worked and what didn't. We learn from every engagement. Admiral Torres smiled grimly. The Keth-Moran Empire gave us excellent learning opportunities. We captured several of your ships during the war. Our engineers have been very busy studying your technology. Zarathul felt a chill run down her spine. You reverse-engineered our technology? Of course, Chen said matter-of-factly. Your plasma cannon designs are quite impressive. We've incorporated several improvements into our own weapons. Your shield generators are also interesting, Dr. Kim added. We're working on combining Keth-Moran shield technology with human adaptive algorithms. The results are promising. This was disturbing news. The Keth-Moran Empire's technological advantages had been one of the few factors that had prevented complete military disaster. If the humans were already adapting that technology to their own uses, the balance of power was shifting even faster than she had feared. How long does this adaptation process usually take? Zarathul asked. It depends on the complexity, Kim replied. Simple improvements can be implemented in weeks. Major innovations might take months or years. But we always make progress. Colonel Wright leaned back in his chair. That's the difference between humans and most other species. When we encounter superior technology, we don't just try to defend against it. We figure out how to make it better. The breakfast conversation continued for another hour, covering topics from resource management to tactical doctrine. Zarathul learned that human military planning was conducted with a level of detail and sophistication that impressed her. These people thought several moves ahead in every scenario. More importantly, they were not content with their current capabilities. Every system could be improved. Every tactic could be refined. Every technology could be enhanced. The humans never stopped innovating. After breakfast, Chen took her on a tour of a nearby military research facility. The complex was vast, containing laboratories, workshops, and testing areas. Hundreds of scientists and engineers worked on projects ranging from basic research to practical applications. This is just one of our research centers, Chen explained, as they walked through a laboratory where technicians were testing new armor materials. We have similar facilities on every major colony world. How many people work in military research? Zarathul asked. About 2 million across all our worlds, Chen replied casually. 2 million researchers. The entire Keth-Moran Empire employed fewer than half that number in military development, and they considered themselves highly advanced. The humans were investing resources in innovation at a scale that seemed almost impossible for a species that controlled only 50 star systems. How do you fund all this research? She asked. Military spending is about 30% of our total budget, Chen explained. But most of our research has civilian applications as well. New engine designs improve cargo ships. Better materials are used in construction projects. Improved computers benefit everyone. They stopped at a viewing window that looked into a testing chamber. Inside, engineers were testing a new type of missile that could apparently change course multiple times during flight. Adaptive targeting system, Chen explained. The missile can analyze defensive countermeasures and adjust its approach accordingly. How effective is it against current Keth-Moran point defense systems? About 90% success rate. Zarathul watched the missile maneuver around simulated defensive fire with an elegance that was almost artistic. The humans had not just copied alien technology, they had improved it beyond the capabilities of its original designers. "Commander," she said carefully, "may I ask you something directly?" "Of course. When you studied our military capabilities during the war, what conclusions did you reach?" Chen was quiet for a moment, clearly choosing his words carefully. "Your empire has impressive resources and advanced technology. Your military doctrine is sophisticated, and your officers are well trained. You should have won the war easily, but we did not." "No, you did not." "Why not?" Chen led her to a quiet corner where they could speak privately. When he was certain they would not be overheard, he answered her question honestly. "Because your empire fights the way empires have always fought. You rely on superior numbers and advanced technology. You follow established doctrine and proven tactics. You fight the war you plan to fight. And humans fight differently? Humans fight the war that exists, not the war we planned for," Chen explained. "When our ships are outgunned, we change our tactics. When our technology is inferior, we find ways to use it more effectively. When our plans fail, we make new plans. You adapt. More than that, we evolve. Every battle teaches us something new. Every defeat shows us a weakness we need to fix. Every victory reveals a strength we can exploit. Every victory." Zarathul understood now why the great powers avoided conflict with humanity. It was not fear of human strength. It was fear of human potential. The humans did not just fight wars. They learned from wars. Each conflict made them stronger than they had been before. "Tell me about your childhood, Marcus," she said, using his given name for the first time. Chen seemed surprised by the personal question, but he answered readily. "I grew up on Kepler Station, a mining colony on the edge of human space. Life was hard. The environment was dangerous. Pirate raids were common. How did your family survive?" "By being useful," Chen replied. "My parents were engineers. They could fix things that broke and build things that were needed. My sister became a pilot because the colony needed people who could fly through dangerous asteroid fields. I joined the militia because the colony needed defenders. You did what was necessary. Everyone did. That's how frontier colonies work. You contribute, or you die. There's no room for people who can't adapt to changing circumstances." This explanation revealed something crucial about human psychology. These people did not see adaptation as unusual or remarkable. They saw it as necessary for survival. From childhood, they were taught to solve problems creatively and to take on whatever role their community needed them to fill. That afternoon, Chen introduced her to other aspects of human society. They visited a school where children learned basic skills alongside advanced technology. They toured a factory where workers collaborated with artificial intelligences to produce complex machinery. They observed a city council meeting where citizens debated policy decisions in a manner that seemed chaotic but produced practical results. "Your society is very different from ours," Zarathul observed as they walked through a public park where humans of all ages were engaged in various activities. "In what way?" Chen asked. "Among my people, everyone has a specific role determined by birth and training. A warrior is always a warrior. A scientist is always a scientist. A leader is always a leader. And among humans, people seem to change roles as needed. I met a factory supervisor who used to be a soldier, a teacher who was once an engineer, a government administrator who started as a farmer. We call it career flexibility," Chen said. "Most humans have several different jobs during their lifetime. They learn new skills as opportunities arise or as society's needs change. Does this not create inefficiency?" "Sometimes," Chen admitted. "But it also creates resilience. When we lose specialists in one area, we can train new ones quickly. When we need expertise in a new field, we can redirect people with related skills." That evening, they attended a cultural performance that had been arranged in her honor. The event was held in a large amphitheater, filled with humans from all walks of life. The performance itself was fascinating, featuring music, dance, and storytelling from dozens of different human cultures. But what impressed Zarathul most was the audience's reaction. The humans did not simply sit quietly and listen. They responded actively to the performance, sometimes joining in songs or calling out responses to storytellers. The boundary between performers and audience seemed fluid and constantly shifting. "Your people are very participatory," she observed. "Humans like to be involved," Chen replied. "We don't just want to observe culture. We want to help create it." After the performance, they were invited to a reception where Zarathul could meet ordinary citizens. She spoke with farmers and factory workers, teachers and technicians, artists and administrators. What struck her was how knowledgeable they were about subjects outside their immediate expertise. A farmer spoke intelligently about spacecraft design. A factory worker had opinions about military strategy. A teacher discussed economic policy with surprising sophistication. These people were not just specialists in their chosen fields. They were generalists who understood how their society functioned as a whole. "How do your people find time to learn about so many different subjects?" she asked Chen. "We're curious," he said simply. "Humans want to understand how things work. We read about subjects that interest us. We discuss ideas with our friends and colleagues. We experiment with new approaches to old problems. Is this encouraged by your government?" "The government doesn't need to encourage it. It's just how we are." As the reception continued, Zarathul found herself drawn into conversations about topics ranging from art to engineering to philosophy. The humans she met were eager to learn about her own culture and perspectives. They asked thoughtful questions and listened carefully to her answers. But she also noticed that they challenged her assumptions. When she described Kethmoran military doctrine, a retired soldier politely pointed out potential weaknesses. When she explained her empire's political structure, a government worker suggested alternative approaches. When she discussed her people's cultural traditions, an artist offered creative interpretations. The humans were not trying to be disrespectful. They were simply applying their natural tendency to analyze and improve everything they encountered. Even conversations were opportunities for innovation. Late that evening, Chen walked her back to her quarters. The day had been full of revelations, and Zarathul's mind was spinning with new information. "Marcus," she said as they reached her door, "may I ask you something personal?" "Of course. Do you believe this marriage will work?" "Not politically, but personally. Can two people from such different cultures build a meaningful relationship?" Chen considered the question seriously. "I don't know," he said honestly. "Human marriages succeed when both partners respect each other and work together toward common goals. Whether that's possible between us depends on whether we can find those common goals. What goals do you think we might share?" "Peace between our peoples, obviously. But beyond that, I think we both want to understand how the galaxy works. We both want to protect the people we care about. We both want to build something better than what existed before." Zarathul studied his face in the dim light of the corridor. "You speak of building something better. What do you hope to build?" "A partnership that shows other species that cooperation is possible," Chen replied. "Your empire and my people have different strengths. If we can combine those strengths, instead of fighting about our differences, we might accomplish things neither of us could achieve alone." It was an optimistic vision, but Zarathul wondered if it was realistic. The more she learned about human culture, the more she realized how fundamentally different their approaches were to every aspect of life. Humans embraced change and uncertainty. Her people valued stability and tradition. Humans questioned everything. Her people respected established authority. "I hope you are right," she said finally. "So do I," Chen replied. "But hope alone won't be enough. We'll need to work at understanding each other every day. We'll need to be patient when we disagree, and creative when we face problems we've never encountered before." As Zarathul prepared for sleep that night, she reflected on everything she had learned during her second day on Earth. The humans were even more complex and formidable than she had initially realized. They were not just good at fighting wars, they were good at learning from everything they experienced. More troubling was the realization that her marriage to Chen was just the beginning of a much larger process. The humans were not content to end their expansion and live peacefully within their current borders. They were preparing for future conflicts with other galactic powers. The marriage treaty would bind the Kethmaran Empire to humanity through political alliance. If the humans eventually went to war with the great powers, her people might be drawn into conflicts they had never imagined. But perhaps that was inevitable anyway. The galaxy was changing. The old balance of power was shifting as new technologies emerged, and old empires struggled to adapt. Maybe the choice was not between peace and war, but between adaptation and extinction. Tomorrow, she would continue learning about her future husband and his remarkable people. She would try to understand what role she was really meant to play in the events that were unfolding, and she would begin to prepare for a future that was likely to be very different from anything anyone had experienced before. Outside her window, the lights of human civilization twinkled in the darkness. Each light represented people who were working, learning, creating, and preparing for whatever challenges lay ahead. They faced an uncertain future with characteristic human confidence and determination. Zarathul could only hope that her own people would be ready for whatever was coming next. The wedding ceremony was scheduled for the 7th day of Zarathul's visit, following both human and Kethmaran traditions. But on the 5th day, everything changed. Zarathul was reviewing treaty documents in her quarters when emergency alarms began sounding throughout the diplomatic complex. Within seconds, Commander Chen burst through her door, flanked by armed guards. "Princess, we need to move immediately," he said urgently. "The complex is under attack." "Under attack by whom?" Zarathul demanded, instinctively reaching for her weapons. "Unknown hostiles, multiple ships, advanced technology. They bypassed our early warning systems completely." Through her window, Zarathul could see explosions lighting up the night sky. Bright flashes of energy weapons illuminated the darkness as human defensive systems engaged the attackers. In the distance, she could see several large ships hovering over the city, their hulls glowing with an eerie blue light. "Those are not Kethmaran vessels," she said immediately. "We know," Chen replied grimly. "The design doesn't match any species in our databases." General Vexhan appeared in the doorway, his forearms carrying multiple weapons. "Your Highness, our ship is under attack as well. We cannot reach it safely." Chen was speaking rapidly into a communication device. "Admiral Torres, what's our situation?" The reply came through clearly. "Unknown attackers. Estimated strength at least 30 capital ships. They're using some kind of stealth technology. Our sensors detected them less than 60 seconds before they opened fire. Defensive capabilities? Sol Defense Grid is responding, but they have technological advantages we've never seen before. Their weapons are cutting through our shields like they're not there." Zarathul felt a chill of recognition. "Commander, describe the attackers' weapons." "High-energy plasma beams with some kind of phasing technology," Torres's voice replied. "They seem to shift frequency to penetrate our defenses." Zarathul and General Vexhan exchanged alarmed looks. "Those are ethereal council weapons," Vexhan said quietly. Chen's expression became deadly serious. "Are you certain?" "The frequency-shifting plasma is their signature technology," Zarathul confirmed. "But why would the Ethereal Council attack Earth now? The timing makes no sense." "Unless they want to prevent our alliance," Chen said grimly. "If they eliminate both of us here, the war between our peoples resumes. They maintain the status quo." Another explosion rocked the building. Chen's communication device crackled with urgent reports from across the planet. "Sir, they're targeting government facilities worldwide. Washington, Beijing, Moscow, New Geneva. They're trying to decapitate our leadership." "Recommendations?" Chen asked quickly. "Emergency protocols are in effect. Government continuity plans are activated. But sir, we're outgunned. These ships are more advanced than anything we've encountered." Chen closed the communication channel and turned to Zarathul. "Princess, I need to ask something that may sound strange. Do you trust me?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, will you follow my lead without questioning my orders, even if what I ask you to do seems impossible or dangerous?" Zarathul studied his face. His expression was calm despite the chaos around them. His voice was steady despite the desperate situation. This was not a man who panicked under pressure. "Yes," she said simply. "I trust you." "General Vexhan?" The Keth Moran military officer hesitated for only a moment. "If the princess trusts you, then I will as well." "Good. Then we're going to do something that's either brilliant or completely insane." Chen activated his communication device again. "Dr. Kim, are you at the research facility?" "Yes, sir." "The complex is under heavy attack, but our main laboratories are still intact. Can you get to Project Prometheus?" There was a pause. "Sir, that system hasn't been tested. We don't know if it will work. Do we have any other choice?" "No, sir. I can have it ready in 10 minutes. Do it." "We're coming to you." Chen turned to his guards. "I need a route to the research facility that avoids the main attack zones." "Sir, the direct route is impossible. But we can use the underground maintenance tunnels. Lead the way." They moved quickly through corridors filled with smoke and emergency lighting. The building shook constantly from nearby explosions. Through windows, Zarathul could see the battle raging overhead. Human fighter craft were engaging the mysterious attackers, but they were clearly outmatched. The underground tunnels were a maze of maintenance pipes and utility conduits. Chen led them through the twisting passages with confidence, clearly familiar with the layout. Zarathul realized that these tunnels had been designed not just for maintenance, but as an emergency evacuation system. The humans always plan for disaster, she thought to herself. Even their most peaceful installations were built with warfare in mind. They emerged at the research facility to find controlled chaos. Scientists and technicians were working frantically to evacuate sensitive materials, while defensive systems held off attacking craft. Dr. Kim met them at the entrance, her face grim but determined. "Commander, Project Prometheus is ready, but I have to warn you about the risks." "Explain quickly," Chen said as they hurried through the facility. "It's an experimental communication system designed to contact species outside our local stellar region. We've never tested it at full power, and we don't know what kind of response we might get." They reached a massive chamber containing equipment that defied easy description. Banks of exotic machinery surrounded a central platform that hummed with barely contained energy. The air itself seemed to vibrate with power. "What exactly does this system do?" Zarathul asked. "It sends a signal through what we call quantum space," Dr. Kim explained rapidly. "The message can reach anywhere in the galaxy instantaneously, regardless of distance." "And you're planning to contact whom?" Chen's expression was determined. "Everyone." Dr. Kim activated the system, and the chamber filled with a low harmonic tone that seemed to resonate in their bones. Banks of displays showed complex mathematical patterns and energy readings that fluctuated wildly. "System is online," Kim reported. "Ready to transmit." "Life." "Ready to transmit." Chen stepped onto the central platform. "Dr. Kim, record this message and prepare for galactic broadcast." "Sir, are you sure about this?" "Do it." The recording equipment activated, and Chen began to speak. His voice was calm and clear, despite the sounds of battle overhead. "This is Commander Marcus Chen of the Terran Federation, speaking to all sentient species in the galaxy. Earth is currently under attack by forces using Ethereal Council technology. We believe this attack is intended to prevent a peace treaty between humanity and the Keth Moran Empire." He paused as another explosion shook the building, then continued. "We are transmitting complete tactical data about this attack to all civilized species. Study our defensive efforts. Learn from our mistakes. Because if the Ethereal Council is willing to attack Earth to prevent a simple alliance, they will eventually attack anyone who threatens their vision of galactic order." Zarathul realized what Chen was doing. He was not just calling for help, he was warning the entire galaxy about a threat that could eventually target every species. The attackers are using frequency-shifting plasma weapons that can penetrate known defensive systems. They employ stealth technology that defeats standard sensors. Their ships appear to be composed of materials that resist conventional weapons. Chen looked directly at the recording device. "Humanity has always believed that knowledge should be shared freely. We are therefore transmitting all data from this engagement to every species capable of receiving this message. Use this information to protect your own worlds. Dr. Kim's hands flew over her controls. Sir, I'm detecting massive quantum resonance effects. This signal is reaching farther than we ever thought possible. Continue transmission, Chen ordered. He turned back to the recording device. To the forces currently attacking Earth, we have a message for your commanders. Humanity does not surrender. We do not negotiate with aggressors. We do not accept domination by any power that believes might makes right. His voice grew harder. You have made a mistake. You attacked us hoping to prevent an alliance that might threaten your power. Instead, you have guaranteed that every species in the galaxy will learn to recognize you as a threat. The building shook again, more violently than before. Dust rained from the ceiling, and several displays flickered and went dark. You wanted to maintain the status quo through violence, Chen continued. You will discover that violence is humanity's specialty. You wanted to prevent us from forming alliances. You will discover that shared enemies create the strongest alliances of all. Dr. Kim looked up from her instruments with wonder. Sir, we're getting responses. Dozens of them. Species I've never heard of are acknowledging receipt of our transmission. Any military responses? Yes, sir. The Karthek Dominion is dispatching a fleet to investigate. The Nexus Collective is analyzing the tactical data. Even the Void Hunters are expressing interest. Zarathul was stunned. The Void Hunters were a mysterious species that rarely communicated with anyone. If they were responding to Chen's message, then his signal had indeed reached across the entire galaxy. Chen continued his broadcast. This attack will not achieve its intended purpose. The marriage alliance between Princess Zarathul of the Kethmaran Empire and myself will proceed as planned. Our peoples will stand together against any threat to galactic peace. He looked directly at Zarathul as he spoke. She realized he was asking her to confirm her commitment publicly, before the entire galaxy. She stepped onto the platform beside him. This is Princess Zarathul, heir to the Kethmaran Empire. I confirm our alliance with humanity and our commitment to mutual defense against all aggressors. The harmonic tone from the quantum communication system grew louder. Dr. Kim's instruments showed energy readings that were off the scale. Sir, we're detecting quantum cascade effects. Kim called out urgently. The system is amplifying the signal beyond our design parameters. Can you maintain transmission? Yes, sir. But I don't know for how long. Chen nodded grimly. Then we make this count. He spoke to the recording device again. To all species receiving this transmission, humanity offers the following proposal. We will share our military technology and tactical knowledge freely with any civilization that commits to mutual defense against aggressor species. We will provide assistance to any world under attack by forces that seek to impose their will through violence. Zarathul understood the magnitude of what Chen was proposing. Humanity was offering to arm and ally with every species in the galaxy that was willing to resist domination by the great powers. We do not seek to rule other species, Chen continued. We do not demand tribute or submission. We ask only that you stand with us against those who believe that superior technology gives them the right to control others. Dr. Kim's voice was excited. Sir, response traffic is overwhelming our receivers. Species across the galaxy are requesting alliance terms. The Kethmaran Empire is pledging full military support. Even some species we've never contacted are offering assistance. The battle sounds overhead were changing. The constant explosions had been replaced by different noises. The sounds of larger ships arriving and engaging the attackers. Commander. Admiral Torres's voice came through the communication system. We have new contacts entering the system. Kethmaran reinforcements. 3 full battle groups. They're engaging the attackers. Any change in the tactical situation? Yes, sir. The attackers are withdrawing. They appear to be retreating rather than face a combined human Kethmaran fleet. Chen allowed himself a small smile. Apparently, the Ethereal Council didn't expect our alliance to produce immediate military cooperation. More reports flooded in. Karthek ships were entering the system. Nexus collective vessels were arriving from different vectors. Even some unknown species were sending craft to assist with the defense of Earth. "Sir," Dr. Kim reported, "the quantum cascade is stabilizing. We can maintain this communication link indefinitely if needed. Continue broadcasting tactical data," Chen ordered. "Let every species see exactly how the attackers fought and how they were defeated." Zarathul watched the displays, showing incoming ships from dozens of different civilizations. Chen's desperate gamble had worked. By broadcasting the attack to the entire galaxy, he had turned a surprise assault into a public relations disaster for the attackers. "Marcus," she said quietly, "how did you know this would work?" "I didn't," he admitted. "But humans have learned that when you're facing impossible odds, you change the game. We couldn't defeat those ships with the forces we had available, so we made sure we wouldn't have to fight them alone." Over the next few hours, the situation continued to evolve. The attacking ships had completely withdrawn, apparently unwilling to face the growing Alliance fleet that was assembling in Earth's orbit. More species continued to arrive, drawn by Chen's broadcast and the promise of shared defensive technology. Dr. Kim's communication system had become the center of a galactic diplomatic revolution. Species that had never communicated before were coordinating joint patrols. Military technologies were being shared across cultural boundaries. Alliance agreements were being negotiated in real time. "Commander," Admiral Torres reported, "we now have over 300 ships from 47 different species in system. They're requesting permission to establish a permanent joint defense station in the Sol system." "Granted," Chen replied without hesitation. "Dr. Kim, can your system handle ongoing galactic communication traffic?" "With some modifications. Yes, sir. We can turn this into a permanent diplomatic and military coordination center." Zarathul realized that in a few hours, Earth had become the de facto capital of a new galactic alliance. Species that had previously maintained strict neutrality were now cooperating to defend against common threats. "The great powers will not be pleased by this development," she observed. "No, they won't," Chen agreed. "But that's their problem now. They wanted to maintain control through intimidation and isolation. We've made that impossible." The wedding ceremony took place 3 days later, not in the diplomatic complex as originally planned, but aboard a massive space station that had been rapidly constructed in Earth's orbit. Representatives from 63 different species attended the ceremony, making it the largest diplomatic gathering in galactic history. Zarathul wore traditional Kethmaran ceremonial robes combined with human wedding elements. Chen wore a formal military uniform with decorations from multiple species. The ceremony itself combined traditions from dozens of different cultures, creating something entirely new. "Do you, Marcus Chen of humanity, take Zarathul of the Kethmaran Empire as your partner in marriage and in alliance?" asked the officiant, a human diplomat who had been granted authority to represent all allied species. "I do," Chen replied firmly. "Do you, Princess Zarathul, take Marcus Chen as your partner in marriage and in alliance?" "I do," Zarathul said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast ceremony hall. "Then, by the authority granted to me by the New Galactic Alliance, I pronounce you married and allied. May your union bring peace and prosperity to all species." The ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy using the quantum communication system. Billions of beings watched as representatives from dozens of species signed the formal alliance documents. But for Zarathul, the most important moment came later, during the private reception, when Chen took her aside for a quiet conversation. "So," he said with a smile, "how do you think this marriage is going so far?" "Better than I expected," she replied honestly. "When I agreed to this arrangement, I thought I was ending a war between our species. I didn't realize I was helping to start a galactic revolution." "Neither did I," Chen admitted. "But maybe that's how change always happens. You try to solve one problem, and you accidentally discover solutions to problems you didn't even know existed." Zarathul looked out through the station's viewing ports at the fleet of ships from dozens of different species. "What do you think will happen next?" "The great powers will try to break up our alliance," Chen said thoughtfully. They'll offer individual species better deals than they can get through cooperation. They'll try to create conflicts between alliance members. They'll probably attempt to eliminate key leaders, including us, especially us. Our marriage is the symbol of everything they oppose. Cross-species cooperation, shared technology, mutual defense against aggression. Zarathul considered this. Are you prepared for that level of danger? Are you? Chen asked in return. She thought about everything she had learned during her visit to Earth. The humans were not just warriors or diplomats or engineers. They were survivors who had learned to adapt to any challenge. They had taken a desperate situation and turned it into an opportunity to reshape galactic politics. Yes, she said finally. I think I am. Good, Chen replied. Because I have a feeling we're going to need each other more than we ever imagined. He was right, of course. In the weeks and months that followed, the great powers did everything they could to destroy the new alliance. Economic warfare, diplomatic pressure, targeted assassinations, and outright military attacks all failed to break the bonds that had been formed. The humans had shared their most valuable resource with their new allies. Not just their technology, but their approach to problem-solving. Species across the galaxy began adopting human methods of adaptation and innovation. They learned to question established doctrine, to experiment with new approaches, and to treat every setback as a learning opportunity. The Ethereal Council's attack had indeed prevented the original limited alliance between humanity and the Kethmaran Empire. Instead, it had created something far more dangerous to the established order. A galactic confederation of species that refused to accept domination by anyone. Zarathul and Chen's marriage became more than just a political alliance. It became a partnership based on genuine respect and shared commitment to protecting the freedom of all sentient beings. They worked together to coordinate military operations, negotiate diplomatic agreements, and develop new technologies that could benefit every species. But perhaps most importantly, they proved that cooperation between different species was not just possible, but inevitable. The galaxy was too large and too complex for any single empire to control indefinitely. The future belonged to those who could work together rather than those who tried to dominate others. Standing on the command deck of the Alliance station, watching ships from 100 different species working together to patrol the galaxy's trade routes, Zarathul reflected on how much her life had changed. She had married a human to end a war, and discovered that the real war was just beginning. But she had also discovered why no empire dared challenge humanity directly. It was not because humans were stronger or more advanced than other species. It was because humans made everyone around them stronger and more advanced. They turned enemies into allies, problems into opportunities, and impossible situations into stepping stones toward something better. The great powers had spent millennia maintaining their dominance through intimidation and isolation. Humanity had changed that forever. They had shown the galaxy that there was another way. A way based on cooperation rather than domination, innovation rather than tradition, and hope rather than fear. The war between the old order and the new was far from over. But as Zarathul stood beside her human husband, watching the ships of their alliance patrol the stars, she knew which side would ultimately prevail. The future belonged to those who could adapt, learn, and grow together. And no species in the galaxy was better at those things than humanity and their willing allies.